Hi everyone, it's Andrew Warner, founder of Mixergy.com. As part of my series of interviews on learning how to increase traffic to our websites, I had a conversation recently with Brent Csutoras. He is a whiz at using social media sites like Dig, Delicious, Reddit, and several others to get traffic to websites. And the reason I wanted to do this interview is because I feel that if you and I are going to change the world, people obviously have to know about what we're doing. And so I've got a series of interviews going on here on Mixergy. It's an ongoing project to learn from the mavens how to get traffic over to our websites. So here's some of my notes from the conversation. Number one, he told me that we have to understand traffic from sites like Dig in two waves. The first wave is people who see you at the top of these sites and they come over to your website. The second wave is probably just as, if not more important, and these are people who see you at the top of sites like Dig and Delicious, and then they say, well, let me blog about the site, let me tell other people about it, and that is a much more longer lasting benefit to your site. All right, next thing he told me is that we have to keep the audience in mind. Know who's going to be on these sites. They're not necessarily your typical reader, not necessarily the typical reader of your website, not necessarily the typical customer at your website. So you have to understand them, and you have to some degree, cater to them. In fact, Brent told me that if he's writing about somebody who a site like Dig likes, he puts a positive spin on his story. If he's writing about someone who Dig or Reddit may not like, and he plans to submit his site to those social media sites, he might put a negative spin on it. So you want to keep that audience in mind. Third, he said, understand the difference between readers and scanners. Scanners are what you get when you're on social media sites. These are people who just come to your website and they're scanning for quick information and they want to move on to the next site that they discover on social media sites. And if you are going for these sites and you're hoping to get traffic from them, think of the scanners and make your site easy for somebody to absorb quickly. In fact, I've looked at some of the pages that Brent's put together, and in a second, you can tell what they're about because the picture communicates what the story is about, because the headlines communicate what the story is about, because on the pages that he submits out, the content is just so easily digested. It's not one big block of text. It's a series of small paragraphs that you can't help but absorb it all. Really well done, and I think there's a lot to learn from those formats, even if you hope to attract long-form readers who come to your website directly instead of the scanners who might find you through social media sites. Okay, final note on this conversation. As always, if you download this interview, you're going to get a whole lot more. I think Brent does a much better job of explaining Brent's ideas than Andrew does, and so I always urge you to download the interview that I did, and you'll get more than from my summary of it. But lastly, don't be a stranger. These aren't sites that you can just pop in and out of, yell a couple of words about your website and hope people to follow you back over to your website. What he says is you have to participate in the community and really get a sense for it before you could submit your sites to it, or before you can add your input into it. If you were at the Mixergy viral forum that we did, you might remember Neil Patel being up on stage and saying that he hires people whose job is to maintain his relationship with certain social media sites. He has some of the top users of Dig and some of the top users of other sites on his payroll or in his Rolodex, and he makes sure that he's close touch with them so that he has an in with these communities. All right, so these are my notes. As I say always, download the interview. You can hear and learn a whole lot more. Brent's a great teacher, and I urge you to learn from him. Till next time, I'm Andrew Warner, and I'll see you at a Mixergy event.